Yo everyone, we're back with more Greatest Attorney Chronicles. Let's hit it. By getting to the cross-examination. And I have to start off this episode by doing the Scottish voice. Great. You know what? I did this line already. I'm just gonna skip that one. I need to spare my vocal cords as much as I can with this dude. And you say you don't know who actually issued the directive. Here we go. Aye, that's right. All I can be sure of is that it was official. But if it was from the prosecutor's office, that narrows down who could have issued it straight away. And it wasn't me. I can even say with certainty that it did originate from the prosecutor's office. What? There's no telling where it started. There's a fair chance it came from higher up the ladder. Basically, I can give you any indication of who was behind it. You can't be serious. All we can say for sure is that the order must have come from someone in authority, I suppose. The likes of us on the ground, as it were, deny bother with idle speculation. We just get the job done. Coming to the Chief Water Vigil here. So, Mr. Vigil, you didn't know anything about it at all? That's right. My only role in the scheme was as a scapegoat. That's right, isn't it, Governor? Sadness. Some poor beggar had to take the rap for it. Alright, who else did know about the plan? I've known the first idea, laddie. My part in the whole business was basically just dealing with the aftermath. But I would not be surprised if there were other folk in the prison service who'd been given similar orders. So you don't know who else was involved? Aye, that's right. All I can tell you is that the night it actually happened, the person at the reins was Dr. Stevens. Dr. Courtney Stevens? Or Dr. Scythe, as she's now known. Oh, why did I have to get caught up in such terrible business? Who knows? Oh, didn't mean to skip that one. Did you not notice anything unusual happening in the lead up to that night? Oh, everything was unusual, exception after exception. After all, it was the professor. The man had terrorized the country as never before with his crimes. In order to hide his identity, he was forced to wear an iron mask over his head. Hideous treatment. The fellow was surprisingly docile for someone who'd taken the lives of 5 of the country's noblemen. Being the chief warder, I was the only person permitted to approach his cell. I can still hardly believe that I was duped by my own country. I believe you jumped from the window of the governor's office when the jailbreak was blamed on you, didn't you? Whoosh, Vigil. How can they apologize enough? No, Governor. I don't believe you can. It won't change what's happened. Damn. Damn. And what else can you tell us about the situation, Governor Caden? Kaiden? I don't know.
Hold it!
But you've already acknowledged that orders came from the prosecutor's office to arrange for the man's escape. There must have been some sort of negotiation. It's the only explanation. Hey, that rhymed. Aye, well, be that as it may. I dinna ken nothing about it. But when this stand is no place for telling what you don't know for sure. I ken that much I do. Then I presume you know this. Fuck off. God, sorry. Something on my computer just popped. I had a pop-up. Not telling what you do know is a criminal offense. So you were just following orders, is that it? I'm afraid that won't absolve you of guilt here. A man was still killed illegally. Ah, yes, as opposed to a man being killed legally. Sorry. It just sounds real funny. Even if he was a condemned criminal. You may very well be found complicit in murder, Governor. So that's what it's to be, is it? Even with the threat of conviction, you won't break your silence. Huh. Carry out the order for Her Majesty's Great British Empire. Alright, let's talk about this. Did you carry out the plan in its entirety? Aye, I did everything I could at the time. As you know, Genshin Asogi was shot dead in Lowgate Cemetery after the escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too? My instructions what to do getting the jockey out of the jail or nothing but... Sorry, I had some... Sometimes, like, I don't know, sometimes I just, like, get choked up somewhat, and I just have to, like, let myself... give myself a second. It's weird. I think it might be allergies. Getting out of the jail, nothing more. I can't tell you anything about what happened after that. Only... Personally, I prefer the air. I believe his death was the last part of the plan. Hello, sir.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Chotomate. Mr. Vigil, is something wrong? He's spinning faster. Yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir? He's saluting now. What is it? Some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Caden said just now seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps? For the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors, in the name of my country. Just as my father was betrayed, it seems. But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine that the shooting of Mr. Asogi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan. What makes you think that? Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it? To make the man admit to crimes he didn't commit with the promise of a jailbreak, only to kill him in the end. That's treachery of the worst kind. But the point is, if the intention was always to betray him, why would there be any need for all the chicaneries of an escape? Chicaneries, I don't know. I've never heard that word in my life. Maybe it's an oldie British thing, or maybe I just don't have a good vernacular. Ah. Yes, that's quite true. If whoever negotiated with Asogi never intended to keep his or her end of the bargain, it would have been far simpler just to let the man be executed in prison as dictated by his sentence. It all happened in that vast chamber of secrets that is Barclay, behind the high prison walls. Chamber of Secrets? What are we in, Harry Potter? Cosmo, you would probably end up... I don't know, you look like a Ravenclaw type dude. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going on about. I suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now. Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly. Blah. Truth be told, there is a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me. And that would be... If you believe there was some kind of a negotiation behind the jailbreak, between Asogi and a body at the top, Doesn't quite add up, does it? Governor Caden, I must insist that you explain these doubts that you have by amending your formal testimony. Gods, I go on then. Oh, bitch, what you gotta say now? Ooh. Ooh, you in deep shits, bro. You have nothing to bargain with. What?
Hold it!
Admitting to the crimes. That was what he had to bargain with, surely. How can they see that myself? After all, the prosecution no have conclusive evidence against the Kali, eh? This, you mean, discovered during the final victim's autopsy. There's every possibility that this conclusive evidence was fabricated by Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office.
Objection!
Possibilities are all very well, but nothing has been proven. You can holler about misconduct in the trial 10 years ago all you like. But if you can't establish that it had happened with hard evidence, no one's going to listen. Aye, that's right. So I'm saying this. The convict had nothing. Nothing he could use for any kind of bargaining at all. The witness makes an astute point. Logically, it would seem no negotiation could have taken place. And yet the plan to break the man out of prison was definitely put into practice. So he must have been armed with something that gave him an angle to negotiate. Well, I think I can take a wild guess as to what. So Asogi-san... Oh right, it's an inner thought. I was like, why does it say san at the end now? But it's because inner thought. So Asogi-san agreed to confess to the crimes because he was assured he'd be broken out of prison later. That's kind of weird that you'd still... Even if it's internal thoughts, it's kind of weird that he put san at the end of his name. Considering, you know, they're literally best friends. I would think best friends wouldn't have use for honorifics, but to each their own. I really don't think that Kazuma-sama's father would have engaged in such negotiations. Then perhaps something compelled him to agree. What a terrible thing. Using the law to legitimize such underhand dealings with a desperate man. Only to double-cross him in the end. It's quite the opposite of justice. Justice for all, more like justice for... null. Can't help feeling. There's something about this apparent negotiation that doesn't quite add up. Something doesn't quite add up, Mr. Naruhodo. No, it doesn't. But I can't quite put my finger on what yet. Well, in that case, we must keep digging until we identify the problem. Maybe now?
Objection!
Here we go, the Asogi papers, finally. Confessing under oath to murders he didn't commit on a verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison. Genshin Asogi was taking an incredibly risky gamble. Very true. There was nothing to stop the British breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyway. Under normal circumstances, no man would stake his life on a gentleman's agreement like that. Which means that Mr. Asogi must have had a trump card. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon. Havas! The fella couldn't possibly have had anything like that. But you know that he did, Governor. The Asogi Papers. The name given to the last will and testament of Genshin Asogi. It turns out that Mr. Asogi was hiding his will in his cell at Barclay. Chief Order Vigil caught him with it one day. You squealed, did ya, you wee rat? Did I not tell you to keep that a secret? You can't touch me now. God! When Mr. Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict cell, Mr. Asogi pleaded with the warder. Alright then, but what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A weapon. Buki. And after the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of the jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it? Well, yes. All the prison warders searched through the belongings in his cell, but that will was just nowhere to be found. As I understand it, an exhaustive search was made for the document, which became known as the Asogi Papers. Governor Caden, I believe you ordered your prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you? Eh? Would I be right in saying that you knew? You know that the so-called Asogi Papers had the potential to make great waves somehow. Jeans, what the blazes are you blethering about? The will was found right and proper. In the fella's cell where I said it would be. But how can that be? Where in his cell? We all searched the place from top to bottom. I freaking love the way he slaps the table, then instantly has to freaking just like... He's just like he hurts his hands just from pathetically slapping the table. Well, you didn't do a proper job, eh, you peely wally galoot. You can't criticize me now. I showed it to you before, did I know? Yon lawyer. Yes, you did. I have the document here. It's written in Japanese and reads, The Last Will and Testament of Genshin Asogi. Which means everything is as it should be. Not quite, my lord. You see, there's an undeniable inconsistency here. What? What inconsistency? Mr. Asogi described this document as the only weapon he had left. Man, I keep having to pause the recording because I'm having problems like the thing that I just mentioned a bit ago about how I get choked up. I don't know, today is especially bad. I haven't had problems with this in previous recordings, but the past like day or two, it only happens when I sit down and record. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's just because like excessive talking does this to me. I don't know. I'm gonna try to keep my varied voices on the down low and kind of speak in a quieter voice with the mic closer. And maybe that'll solve it. So this will be a bit of... The rest of this episode will be probably low octane, I guess. I might also have to make the video slightly shorter and make it in like the late 30 minutes. I don't remember if I read this one or not, because I actually took a few minutes of a break to try to get myself back in gear, so I'll reread this line. And yet this will contains nothing of significance at all. Nothing that would have given the convict any leverage. Are you suggesting, my learned friend, that the last will and testament stored at Barclay prison all those years is actually a fake? As has clearly been demonstrated already, what went on at Barclay prison was far from above board. Boom. Boom. That last vilification by the defense was an affront to the entire British legal system. Oh, what you got now, bitch? This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only the former Chief Warder's word. The man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least, sorely mistaken. What? No, I definitely heard him say that, I swear. Clearly, we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Asogi papers. A waste of time. If the will was fake, where is the real document?
Objection!
Mr. Vigil was stabbed in the back by the judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything, very nearly his own life. They are both shocked. And now you're gonna do it again. You're ready to brand him a liar and turn your back on him without even letting him defend himself. Oh shit. It's clear the Barclay prison is hiding something. It's clear that the jailbreak is masterminded by somebody in the prosecutor's office. It's clear that some illicit negotiations took place. Is your lordship over there gonna gloss over the details? What did you say? We should hear more from the Chief Warder. Have him testify again. The trial must go on. The man's voice must be heard. It would seem that a vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. I think it's a bit more than few. I think it's like the entire judiciary. Very well then, let the witness testify again. Tell the court precisely what you think you saw of the convict's last will and testament. Yes, sir, my lord. Alright. The Asogi Papers. As the warder responsible for condemned convicts, I attended to Mr. Asogi and kept watch over his cell. The night after he was found guilty in court, he was doing something with that will in his cell. We turned the cell inside out looking for it after the execution, but to no avail. I only found out about the Asogi papers when a directive came telling me to impound them. The document was in the folds of the fellow's robe that was left in his cell. A kimono, I think it's called. Bro was wearing a kimono in jail? In his kimono? That's a lie. We searched every inch of the man's cell. We looked through all his clothes. It can't be true. What do you know, sort of satisfied with calling me a liar the once, eh, you wee waffinger? Oh, there's nothing you can do about it now. You don't have any hold over me anymore. Other than the hold you like to take on my cravat, of course. Is that what you're gonna do, is it? It almost looks like he's trying to do some weird humping motion. Are you gonna give me a good shake again? Or are you too scared? I like how his frickin' cravat is bending as if he's getting shaken, but in reality he's not. And there it is. Yeah, see? Same exact positioning. Little and large. What a double act. We complied with Asogi's will as far as was possible. All of his personal effects were delivered to his family home in Japan. As a courtesy to the homeland of the most notorious killer our country has ever seen. And we were much obliged. I can confirm that all of my father's belongings arrived safely. Can they deny the handwriting is that of your old man, eh? Yes, there's no mistaking that it's my father's brushwork. Really? And this last will and testament was the man's last weapon, was it? I think we can safely assume that the convict was merely prattling, knowing that his end was nigh. What are we at? So, counsel for the defense. Your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. Cross-examination. The Asogi Papers. Alright. 5 statements to get through. Let's do this. Oh, I accidentally clicked forward. Did not mean to do that.
Hold it!
So would that mean that you conversed with Mr. Asogi? Yes, certainly. Though there was precious little time before his execution was due. Yeah, must still be hard for him to listen to this stuff. He was remarkably calm, considering his days were very much numbered. In all honesty, he really didn't strike one as a man capable of mass murder. Because he wasn't. Yet he confessed in full to the crimes. I know. That's why I felt compelled to ask him one day. I can still recall his reply. I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. That could just mean that he ending someone's life can have multiple meanings. Obviously, killing someone is the obvious answer to that. But there's 3 things. Either it means that he was a mass murderer, which is the most straightforward answer. He said ending another human's life, which could also mean that he's killed a singular person. Or it could mean ending someone's life as in, like, the sense that their life has been ruined and their life is over, you know, that type of stuff, maybe. But he was so tranquil and intelligent, it put me in mind of an Eastern holy man. And what about the will you saw him with? What can you tell us about that? It was the beginning of all the drama. I remember it very well, yes.
Hold it!
And he pleaded with you not to report him, didn't he? Yes, that's right. And like the vampire, you didn't tell me. A blatant breach of trust that was. I could see that the man had a noble spirit. I found myself wanting to treat him accordingly. But according to what you told us 2 days ago, the convict had been strictly forbidden from having any written materials whatsoever. Yes, you're quite right. Ah, so when exactly was the will penned? That was before the man was remanded in Barclay, obviously. Yes, at the prosecutor's office under supervision of the relevant authorities. I personally instructed Sogi to make a will for the benefit of his family and his homeland. In that case, why was it found in his cell? What do you mean by that? Well, if it was penned at the prosecutor's office, you would have expected that it would have remained there for safekeeping, surely. Ah. It's curious. There doesn't seem to be any obvious explanation for why it was subsequently found in the convict cell. Oh, well. The defense makes an astute point. Well, Governor? You got a good answer for that one, do you? A prison governor can be expected to ken the inner workings of the prosecutor's office. In that case, Lord Strandhart, perhaps you can shed some light on the matter. I'm unable to offer an explanation here and now. I would have to consult with the notary responsible for the will at the time. The fact that my father's will was discovered in his cell is clearly inconsistent with what was expected. I want to know why. Another inexplicable mystery, then. Well, the thing is about that will. We turned the cell inside out looking for it after the execution, but to no avail.
Hold it!
It was the governor who ordered the search for the will, as I understand it. Is that right? Yes, and when I reported back that we couldn't find it, he grabbed me by the cravat and yelled, can they have disappeared completely in my face? Aye, well. It's due to the governor to keep everybody working as hard as they should.
I think the governor needs a wee taste of his own medicine, Mr. Naruhodo.
The point is, it was clearly considered a very important document, wasn't it? But it proved impossible to find. That's right. And before I knew it, it was in the morning paper. That blood-curdling article. The executed mass murderer who'd risen from the dead.
Oh, you mean...
The article based on Mr. Drebber's experience in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, that was it. The day after I read that news, I was summoned to the governor's office. And that's when the awful accusation was made. Then you'd aided Genshin Nasogi to escape from the prison, resulting in your immediate dismissal. I'm afraid I really don't remember anything after that. As the governor of the prison, I had no choice. How can they have done anything else? They found out about the Soga papers when a directive came telling me to impound them.
Hold it!
Aye, what do we got here? And that directive came from the same source as the one instructing you about the jailbreak. Aye, from the top levels of the prosecutor's office. What name was on it? I dinna ken afore it, and I dinna ken now. All I can tell you is that my orders were to do everything in my power to find that document. The directive said it had to be somewhere inside the fella's cell. The fella's cellar. Document. Was that the wording? Document, not will. Aye, that's what it said. Am I clutching at straws here? I just wonder if it was really Genshin Nasogi's last will and testament that the sender of that directive was after. Continue with your testimony then, witness. Huh.
Hold it!
A kimono. And Mr. Asogi's kimono. Aye, the one he'd brought with him when he was locked up. Yes, he was permitted to have his personal effects with him during his incarceration, I understand. That's right. He was granted as much freedom as possible during the few days before his execution. Indeed, he had a number of items of personal significance, I remember. He was very reluctant to part with them. Some books, that kimono, his sword. His sword? Karma, the famous sword of the Asogi clan. It bears the soul of my family. And yet you broke it trying to kill Gregson. I don't doubt it, but I wasn't really getting at that. Forget it being the soul of the clan. Could that man have had a more obvious weapon? Have some respect, Ryunosuke. Respectful silence? The warders carry firearms at all times, and the inmates have shackles around their ankles. He couldn't have hurt anybody with that thing. I mean, he could have, but still, he was allowed a sword, but no writing materials. Aye. He wrote that will before he came to stay with us at Barclay, you see. Dr. Mikatobo was asked to bring the necessary Japanese writing implements to the prosecutor's office.
A Suzuri inkstone, black sumi ink, and some Hanshi rice paper, no doubt.
I was present when he wrote it, but I'm sorry to say the letters just look like a squirming massive jet black earthworms to me.
Excuse me.
What you got this time, bro? Are you feeling faint, Mr. Vigil? Sorry, you just look so hot. I couldn't resist. Mr. Vigil. Sir, it was Scarlet, sir. Oh, what? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to blurt it out like that. Hmm? Less swaying and more explaining would be helpful.
Is it something about the testimony we just heard? Have you recalled something of importance?
Something of importance. Possibly, or possibly not.
I'm unable to tell which way he's leaning, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I can't either. My lord, the defense asks that Mr. Vigil be permitted to supplement his testimony with this possibly or possibly not important detail. Permission granted. Go ahead, Mr. Vigil. Yes, it was Scarlet. As I remembered it, the document was written in scarlet ink, but perhaps I'm mistaken. Written in scarlet, huh? Interesting. Scarlet, you say? Well, yes. I mean, I only caught sight of it for a brief moment, of course. But even by the dim light in the cell, I remember thinking that it was an unusual color. At the very least, I'm quite sure it wasn't black. Oh? Witness, is that really what you saw? Well, sir... Is something wrong, Lord Strongheart? I apologize. Continue.
What do you make of that, Mr. Naruhodo?
That was the most distressed we've seen this guy.
For Lord Strongheart to be so visibly shaken in that way.
Och, didn't they have her? You can plainly see the writing here, and it's black as the Earl of Hell's waistcoat. Well, yes, you're right. Mr. Vigil, I'd like to confirm one point with you. Did you actually see the content of the document that Mr. Asogi was holding that night? Oh, well, no. I mean, there was no time. As soon as he noticed me there, he hid it behind his back. But it was definitely a will, was it? Yes, it was. That's what Mr. Asogi told me. The court needs waste no further time on this matter. We have the will in question in our possession. There is nothing more to add. I'm not too sure about that one. A will written in scarlet ink. What did Mr. Vigil really see Kazuma's father holding, I wonder? Scarlet.
If you have an inkling, Mr. Naruhodo, you must present it to the court at once.
Heh, ink. Nice joke, Susato. Up top. That testimony doesn't give much away.
So this will really was penned by Kazuma-sama's father. I wonder what he could possibly have meant when he described it as a weapon.
It's starting to sound very much like Mr. Asogi actually had nothing.
But the plan to break him out of jail went ahead, which means he must have had some sort of bargaining power. He must have been hiding something. It's the only explanation that makes sense.
It's starting to sound like Mr. Asogi actually might have had something.
Which is it, Mr. Naruhodo?
I'm not sure, but I feel as though I'm on the brink of understanding all this. Let's listen to all the information again and see what more we can learn. We can't overlook even the smallest detail.
Absolutely.
Well, it's definitely the last one. Scarlet. Written in scarlet. Do we have anything written in red? Is there anything in here, maybe? Wait, no, this is where we found the passport, I believe. Is it really as simple as presenting the papers again? Because that's what I'm honestly most tempted to try. I'm gonna try it, because I don't really see anything written in scarlet. Not anything glaring.
Objection.
Nope. My lord, as counsel for the defense, I must object to that last statement. And as the judge, I must deny your objection. There is no contradiction here. Oh. No contradiction other than the fact that a Far Eastern lawyer is practicing in a British courtroom. Put there by a not so far away Lord Chief Justice, if you remember. Scarlet ink. Okay, so it wasn't... It was not indeed this. It was not the actual Sogi papers. Passport...
Objection.
Oh. Oh shit. Scarlet-colored writing is what you said you thought you saw, Mr. Vigil. And I believe that's exactly what you did see. What? Have us again. You've no evidence to say that. Have a look at this report. That's my brother's autopsy report. Yes, and there's something in here that's bothered me since I had first read it. It states that scarlet-colored ink stains were noted on the fingers of the victim's right hand. Yes, so it does. Scarlet ink? Now, I'm not familiar with the habits of the British aristocracy, I freely admit. But I would hazard a guess that they don't all go around with the ink stains on their fingertips, do they? Your wit is not appreciated. Oh, I appreciate it. My brother was a well-bred and fastidious man. Should ink have sullied his fingertips, he would have cleaned them immediately. What is your point, counsel? My point is this. Whatever Lord Clint von Zeeks was writing in that unusually colored ink, it must have been directly before his death. Because he died before he had the opportunity to clean his hand. What? And now the violins are kicking in. I remember something troubled me at the time. At the scene, the lid of my brother's inkwell was open. Yeah. Sorry, I yawn. But Clint was punctilious about such things. It seemed unusual. And no document penned in the color of the ink that was in the inkwell was ever found. So the document had disappeared. Are you suggesting that the document my father had in his hand that night in his cell was the same document that Lord Clint von Zeeks was writing moments before his death? Then, it was... If Mr. Vigil's testimony is to be believed, it can only mean that, yes. Mr. Vigil. Sir. When you spotted Mr. Asogi with the document in his cell, his precise words were as follows, were they not? Alright then, but what's on that paper? I think we just saw this. The last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A last... Sorry, what the hell was that voice? A last will and testament. Ah! If the conversation really did go as Mr. Vigil says, then what we now know completely changes the meaning of what Mr. Asogi said. You really think? Mr. Vigil did indeed see the convict with a will, but it wasn't that of Genshin Asogi. It was the last will and testament of Lord Clint von Zeeks. No. What? Oh, shit.
Objection!
This is madness. My brother's last will and testament. That would mean that he had chosen to die. That is what it would mean, yes. Also, this isn't madness. This is Sparta. I care not for what it is. No, impossible. That is utterly out of the question.
Lord Van Zieks.
Clint was pursuing the professor. It consumed him day and night. Whatever happened, he would never have abandoned his investigation before its conclusion. Never. He wouldn't rest until the job was done, until the killer was caught. The idea that he would willingly accept his own death, it's obscene.
Objection.
And yet, we can be sure that he was writing his will moments before his death, and that Genshin Asogi came to be in possession of that document. So what could the will possibly have contained? Clearly something that couldn't be made public under any circumstances whatsoever. Because armed with that document, my father was able to negotiate with the judiciary for his life. It was something so damning that it prompted the powers that be to enact that daring jailbreak plot. Yes, there can be no question that the will contained information of the utmost secrecy. Information of the utmost secrecy.
Ah! No, it couldn't be.
Is it the professor's true identity or something? I've heard more than enough. Yeah, I bet you have, bitch. Pursuing this notion of a phantom of a phantom will nobody can attest to, having seen. Ah, God, I need to reread that one again. That is a weird ass sentence. Sorry. Have some crust in my eyes. Pursuing this notion of a phantom will nobody can attest to having seen serves absolutely no purpose.
Objection.
No, my lord, that's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
What did you say, counsel? Last will and testament that Genshin Asogi had in his possession was that of Lord Clint Van Zieks. All the testimony and evidence presented to the court has logically led us to that as a possibility. We have a duty to pursue that line of reasoning to its conclusion, but with no possible means of knowing the contents of the document, there is no line of reasoning to pursue. The reason why Lord Clint Van Zieks, a man of high noble standing, would have chosen death. Information so secret, people in the judiciary would be willing to negotiate the jailbreak of a condemned killer. The only explanation that fits those facts is an unthinkable truth that turns absolutely everything on its head. And we'll find out what that is next time on Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Adios, ciao, and bye-bye. Signing off until next time. Ja, matane.